My name is Tonya Baillargeon. Thank you for having me on the show today, Waleed.
Welcome. So let's start about firstly from your introduction and background. Can you share a bit about your background and journey to become a holistic cancer wellness specialist?
In 2007, I was diagnosed with a carcinosarcoma of the uterus. And what that means is I had two different kinds of cancer. And when they removed my cancer, they removed over 10 pounds of cancer from my body. And so I decided that I was going to have the right mindset going through this journey because because of the amount of cancer that I had and the kind of cancer that I had about a 5% chance of survival. It was stage 3, phase 2 uterine cancer. And I fully believe that you have to start with the right mindset. So every day I visualized that I was putting on Wonder Woman's pantaloons every day. And that was me actively deciding to live every day. After that, I worked on making sure that my friends, family, and medical team were all aligned in the fact that I was going to kick cancer's butt. So we made sure that nobody was mourning me already, like while I was still standing there, or talking about expiration dates or any of that. I wouldn't tolerate that kind of talk. And the third thing that I did is I had a conversation with my oncologist about alternative wellness modalities, things like Reiki, which is energetic healing, aromatherapy, herbalism, crystals, singing bowls, and what people call woo woo stuff. And my oncologist sort of rolled his eyes at me and he said, "Everything is fine as long as you don't put it in your mouth. So no herbs." And I said, "Why not?" And his response to me was because the herbs could counteract the chemotherapy and we want the chemotherapy to do its job. So we came to an alignment and I didn't do any of the herbs, but I did all of the other stuff. Walking barefoot on the ground, detoxifying baths. The chemotherapy that he recommended that I have was 6 months worth of chemotherapy. Because the aggressiveness of my cancer, they had to give me some medication that was called cisplatin, and cisplatin is very toxic, and they gave me rescue drugs before, during, and after. For a lot of people, when they receive chemotherapy, it's outpatient. They go into a room, they have an IV, and the chemotherapy just drips into their body. But because of the rescue drugs, which I had never heard of before, right? Like, have you heard of them?
No.
No. So it's to counteract the toxicity of the poison that, like the drug that they're putting in my body. And because of how long I had to be hooked up to the IVs, I counted for inpatient. So we did 4 inpatient days a month, and then I had the rest of the month to recuperate. And he called it a chemotherapy radiation sandwich. And I looked at him, I was like, I would rather have the tuna fish because that sounds gross. But basically, it was half of my chemo and then a little break, and then 5.5 weeks of radiation, and then a little break, and then the other 3 months of chemo. So from diagnosis to being completely done and being released back into the wild, it was a little under a year.
Okay. Can you introduce a 1 minute introduction about your where you born, raised, and then your qualification or your like education?
I'm sorry, where I was born? Is that
Where you born and raised, and then your education, from which school you have done, and like this.
I was born in Alaska and I was raised in Summit, New Jersey. Um, I graduated college at the age of 51 with an associate's degree. I'm a
Okay.
certified aromatherapist through AromaHead and a Reiki master.
Okay, very nice. Is Alaska the part of America or Canada?
It's actually part of America.
Okay, okay, okay. And okay, very nice. So, and the next question is, what inspired you to specialize in holistic wellness, particularly in the context of cancer?
From when I was little, I was very interested in the holistic side of things. I've studied herbs for over 40 years, and it's always been a part of my life to do the, Eastern medicine in addition to Western medicine. So it was natural for me to do that. And because I went through my own cancer journey, I want to help people. I didn't have this kind of resource, and I want to be the resource that I needed and did not have while I was going through my journey.
Okay. And how is our how and what's your age if you're comfortable to share with us or with
I'm 54.
okay, very nice. Okay. Let's go to the next question. It's about like a holistic approach to the cancer wellness. How do you define holistic cancer wellness and what does it encompass?
So for me, it encompasses having the right mindset, getting your nutrition fixed. And you need to work on the fact that cancer loves sugar and you want to make your body as alkaline as possible. So there's food that you listen, start now before you get a diagnosis like that. You can fix a lot of that um, beforehand. Having the right support network is part of it. Having the right community. I say it takes a village to raise a Tonya. Like everybody needs community support. Humans rely on each other. So having a good network, a strong network that will support you in this kind of trauma situation is super important. And then and your body knows what it needs, right? So like if I say to you, how do you feel about Reiki, which is energetic healing, you're either going to either lean in or you're going to lean back. If you lean back, that's obviously not a holistic modality that's right for you right now. And so I work with my clients, and we go through a list of a whole bunch of them, and when they lean in, that's what we talk about and explore further.
The is can you explain the role of in supporting traditional cancer treatment?
I'm sorry, you broke up. I couldn't hear you.
Uh, can you explain the role of holistic approaches in supporting traditional cancer treatments?
Well, I think that you need to have both, because if you go at it a holistic philosophy, which is mind, body, spirit, you need to have your spiritual aspect, you need to have your mindset aspect, and in some instances, you definitely require a holistic approach to go with the allopathic approach. Allopathic means traditional Western medicine over here in the States, right? Um, but there's a lot to be said about ancient traditions like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. All of that is super important. These systems have been in place for thousands of years, and that we're not incorporating them with traditional medicine seems to me wrong. Did that answer your
In your
question?
okay, and the next question is: in your experience, is there any link like intermittent fasting and keto diet in correcting the cancer?
I I'm not an expert in that area. I couldn't answer that question. I don't specialize in nutrition, although I'm learning about it rapidly.
Oh, okay, no problem. And the next question is about a personalized wellness plan. And how do you create a personalized wellness plan for individuals facing cancer?
Well, first we have a conversation and we talk about what their diagnosis is, where they're at, where their mindset's at, what kind of plan they want, because everybody has different definitions of what they want in their plan,
Okay.
and everybody needs to have a specialized plan. They need to be an active participant in what it is they want. If they're not interested in it, if they don't like it, they're not going to follow it. and it's going to be detrimental to their overall wellness. So
Okay.
not everybody is open to having a holistic approach being brought in. Some people will
Hmm.
flat out refuse to do that and choose to only do what their doctor tells them to do.
Hmm. Okay. And what factors do you consider when tailoring holistic approaches for your clients?
All right, I'm sorry, say that again.
Uh, what factors do you consider when tailoring holistic approaches for your clients?
Um, how they respond to it, whether they're engaged in talking about it. So when I bring up, let's say, aromatherapy and we start talking about essential oils and they're like, and they're making faces, they're obviously not interested in that. But if their body is leaning in and they're still making that face, we could have a further conversation about it. So there's they give me clues. Sometimes it's verbal clues and sometimes it's how their body responds. And then we talk about it.
Okay. And the next is about the mind body connection. And in your experience, how does mind body connection play a role in cancer wellness?
Uh, there is a quote, whether you think that Confucius said it, or Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I think mindset is the absolute most important thing. We don't understand what our mind can do. I had a 5% chance of survival, and every day I actively visualize myself putting on Wonder Woman's undergarments because for me, Wonder Woman doesn't die. That was my physical representation of me actively deciding to live every day. I think mindset is 100% the first thing that you have to get right.
Okay. And now how's your health? Are you okay or your health?
16 years cancer free.
Okay. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The next question is: what specific practices or techniques do you recommend for fostering a positive mindset during cancer treatment?
Well, so whether your superhero is Wonder Woman or Batman or your grandma or or whoever it is, just start with somebody who inspires you, somebody who you want to emulate. So if it's grandma's stubbornness, then that's what you're going to do. You're going to so maybe grandma has an apron. So you visualize you put on grandma's apron to give yourself that stubbornness or whatever quality about somebody that you want to bring in, you build yourself armor out of something that represents them to you, whether it's a rolling pin, an apron, a cape, magic underwear, whatever it is. And then either visualize putting that armor on or physically put that armor on to give you that empowerment.
Hmm, very nice. And let's move into the next part, which is nutrition and cancer. How does nutrition contribute to holistic cancer wellness, and what dietary recommendation do you often make?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, I can say, how does nutrition contribute to holistic cancer wellness, and what dietary recommendation do you often make?
I'm, I'm not quite catching it. So, a new patient.
Okay, no, I will share to the screen the question,
Okay.
and it's
I'm
about
sorry.
no problem.
How does nutrition contribute? Oh, absolutely. Nutrition is huge. There's several books about how the metabolic approach is appropriate. Um, Cancer feeds off of sugar. Like there are studies that prove that cancer feeds off of sugar. So you're going to want to cut sugar out. You're going to want to make your body into a more alkaline state. Um, Cancer can't live in the presence of oxygen. So that there are things that you can do to customize your nutrition plan. I'm not a nutritionist, so we talk about that, and I recommend. There's a book called How to Starve Cancer. There's another one called The Metabolic Approach to cancer. So there are wonderful resources out there for somebody who's just been diagnosed that they should go absolutely learn more about nutrition. Nutrition is huge. It's a huge factor in
Okay.
survival and diagnosis and getting ill in the first place. So if you can
Okay.
fix your nutrition now, fix your nutrition now. Don't wait until you get diagnosed with something.
Okay. And the next question is, are there any specific food or supplements that you find particularly beneficial for cancer patients?
That I thought this is research based on other people's research. Uh, berberine. It is a nutritional supplement. It is from the Oregon grapefruit plant. Um, there are a whole bunch of mushrooms that have anti-cancerous properties. Lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail mushroom, and most mushrooms actually have some form of anti-cancerous properties depending on, and some of them are better for different kinds of cancer. I don't know any of that off the top of my head, but it's definitely researchable. And they either need to be cooked or they need to be taken in the powdered form, or there are tinctures you can get.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is about the emotional part. How important is emotional support in holistic cancer wellness, and how do you address the emotional aspect of healing?
So, are you talking about your own emotions? Are you talking about your trauma baggage? I'm
It's
trying to
basically
decide.
about the when anybody is facing the cancer.
your your emotional wellness is super important. There's scientific studies that when you get angry for less than 5 minutes, it will impact your immune system for up to 6 hours.
Oh my God.
So yes, exactly. That and you can't afford that kind of thing when you're going through an illness like this. So having a positive mindset and trying to keep yourself in a positive um, state of mind is super important. And I understand exactly how hard that is. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity because that's not useful at all. But you cannot control the situation that you're in. You can only control how you respond to it. And if you respond to it with negativity and garbage, your results are going to unfortunately be that way. But if you respond to it with a can-do attitude, you're more likely to have positive results. It's 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 an absolutely crucial element to your healing.
Okay. And the next question basically is about what are the specific practices or resources you recommend for emotional well-being?
Uh, Meditation, breath work, yoga, all of these things help with the mind. Breath work is super important. Um, Having community, spending time with your friends also can boost your emotions. Doing things that are fun for you, planning recreational activities, reading a book, things that you enjoy doing, you should incorporate that into what you're doing, into your plan.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Tonya, for this podcast. I really enjoyed and I learned a lot from about the cancer. And any remarks or suggestions for this podcast or about this?
You asked some very wonderful questions, and I really appreciate being here. Thank you very much, Waleed.
Okay, thank you. And I'm from Pakistan, and I'm doing trying to do freelancing. So yeah. Okay. So thank you for joining the podcast. And okay.